Welcome back to Ordinal Revolution. My name is Shizzy. On this channel, we cover the entire Ordinal ecosystem. What's up, guys? We have an amazing show for you guys today. I know I always say that, but today we got the BitGod. So you know it's going to be amazing. He's been around since the beginning of Ordinals. He's going to give us a rundown, everything that he sees and what he sees next. We're going to dig into Quadrillion. We're going to dig into everything. It's going to be a very exciting episode, and I just can't wait. We've been looking forward to this for weeks now, and we finally got him. Today's the day. So let me bring in my partner, as always, Mr. Yagobi. What's up, buddy?
What up? What up?
We got the BitGod.
We got him, man. We got him.
Legend.
Got him on the hook. Yeah, excited. Obviously, everybody knows BitGod in the ordinal space. You know, he's definitely one of the pioneers. Kind of like, you know, I feel like engineering like the initial movement. You know, all that energy in the beginning when we first got in, we felt it every time he was on a space or something like that. So I'm excited to pick his brain and see what he thinks and dig into Quadrillion art. And you know, I know that art has always been on his mind, and he finally like kind of pushed through and got this this big project out. So
yeah, it looks great. I was actually looking through it today to make sure I was ready for the episode, and some of the art looks phenomenal. And like, it's funny because like I was never really into art up until I got into Ordinals, and like BitGod was always on Spaces talking about art and stuff, and I really started to dig in. And then the gamut prints happened, and I started digging in deeper, and I really love it. And now I think I'm like an art enjoyer, which is something that you know I never thought I'd be. So thanks to him, and thanks to all that stuff. But yeah,
you're gonna be drinking some wine soon, man. Going to the galleries, bro. No, you're right though. And I think a lot of it also has to do with like just how we connected with the artist community too.
Yeah.
And when you connect with these artists, doing interviews with them or just connecting with them in you know, X chats or spaces or whatever, you start to realize that, you know, they all have their very, you know, artistic styles after you know, see their art, after you get to know them a little bit. And it kind of connects you to that, right? So it's awesome. The experience has been new for me as well in terms of art, and I'm definitely a collector now. You know, I have my little portfolio of just the digital art, and I'm excited to see what BitGod's platform has to offer, because I'll definitely be probably shopping over there too.
100%. So without further ado, bring them in. BitGod, welcome to Ordinal Revolution, man. We appreciate you being here.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me, and looking forward to this great podcast. Thank you guys so much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
I will dig right into it. On this channel, we you know, we obviously love projects, we love the art and stuff, but we really like to get to know the person. And to us, the person behind the project is more important than the project, because you really have good people. Because we don't want another issue happening with Ethereum and all that happened back there. So we really want to get to know you. So if you can take us back further as possible and kind of lead us up to your crypto journey.
Yeah, I mean, man, as far as possible, you know, I guess born and raised in Orange County, right? Had a sort of, I think pretty simple childhood, you know, lower middle class sort of family, right? I think in Orange County, like played a bunch of sports, was sort of all over the place on the sports side, like basketball, baseball, soccer, etc. As I would get older, right, I think started to really, come into my own. I think like many probably kids my age, during that time I was growing up, you started to see the proliferation of video games, and I think kids started to really, you know, spend more time inside, as did I. And so, you know, it was definitely a little bit more socially awkward as sort of time would progress. I think it got to a really interesting point in high school, where I went to a high school, or public high school, with like 700 kids in my class, and then in total, right, the whole school, or whole high school, was like 2,400 kids. So it was just a massive school. And the school I came from, the middle school I came from, was like 30 kids per class, right? So, and like almost none of those kids went to that school, and it was a rough time. Like high school was really rough for me. I was a nerd. It was still sort of growing. And yeah, it was an interesting time. I think though, as time has progressed, I've really, you know, sort of gone into, or sort of grown, I guess, into my body, and I think into myself, of like where I've wanted to go. And I think throughout that time, in high school and middle school, was always trying to start little things here and there, right? Like very entrepreneurial, like very just trying to do anything and everything really on that side. And Where it really started was just with like Craigslist. I mean, I was just like trying to sell anything and everything, right? I resold like a doggy door to a computer. And like, I just really enjoyed like the art of the sale almost. And so like, that was my thing. And then like towards the end of high school, that was when I got into crypto. I remember just like watching some YouTube videos and I was like, this is interesting. And yeah, that leads me up to my sort of crypto, I guess the start of my crypto journey.
Amazing.
Nice. So did you feel like you were pretty natural at being able to kind of, be a flipper in terms of whether that's NFTs or just tokens in general? Were you good at it naturally, or is that something that you had to learn?
I think definitely learn. Like I think as we'll probably get into like in a second on like as soon as I got into the crypto journey, like when I graduated high school and was going to college in I guess 2015 or 2016, I think this was, and getting into crypto, like I just bought anything and everything, and most of that shit is worthless now. So it was you start with Bitcoin, and then the majority of the stuff I purchased is just it's nowhere to be found now. So I don't know. I don't think that I was sort of natural, and if I was, I probably would have made a lot more money, in 2015 to 2017 or 18 or so. But I think it's just more of like it was really an enjoyment thing, and still is, right? I think like being able to get something for one price and being able to sell it to another person for another price, and like having either some sort of edge there or even the reverse, right? In being able to purchase something that I think is actually more valuable than maybe that person thinks it is or believes it to be. And then being able to, I think like that is something I really thoroughly enjoy, and probably I'll take into the future.
Awesome. So you just said 2015. So you were very, very, very early. I would love to hear the first couple of days, or the first year of that.
Yeah, so I think before that, right, like before getting into crypto, I had heard about crypto, right? So I think like any high schooler, especially nowadays, right, you want to be like a day trader, right? You watch these videos on Instagram and everyone's making money, and you're like, oh, this is easy, right? I'll do a little TA and I'm good. And so to that point, I ended up like following this one guy on YouTube for some reason. He just seemed very credible, very well spoken. And I was like, oh, this guy seems, really knowledgeable. I'm going to follow him. And so I followed him pretty fervently. And for like a full year, he basically was saying on his YouTube channel that like Bitcoin was a scam. And I just believed him. I was like, yeah, this guy seems credible. But then after a full year of listening to him and about a lot of his other content that was really focused on the equity side of things, he flipped and he's like, here's why Bitcoin is not a scam. Here's why you should take a look at it, like trade it. And I was like, what the hell? I've just been listening to you so anyways, like that was my first foray. And then as soon as he said that, I was like, all right, I should probably look at it. And I think like the first year was really interesting, right? It was like mainly using like Coinbase and Bittrex and, what else was I using, I guess, at the time? There wasn't really much, right? Like there wasn't DeFi, you had like MetaMask, but like it wasn't really there yet. So I don't know. Like that was what it was mainly. And like watching YouTube channels of like, people thinking what, some coin is like good for. And like people, you're trying to listen to people on these YouTube channels tell you how like, the tech is so good on this coin and why you should buy it. And now I know that most of those are probably just shills, but like, back then you had no clue. And that was my first year probably in crypto. It was just a lot of buying scams and buying random things. And some of those things did go up. Some of those, a lot of those things did go down, but that was really my first year in crypto.
Yeah, I actually remember when I first got in 2013, and it was whenever that run went up with Bitcoin, and I think it got to like $600 or something, or in 2013, really quick. And then I bought it then because my friends told me about it, and I go, I'm too late on this. $600. I was like, I'm too late on this, and I bought like, I think I bought like 0.4 Bitcoin because I just threw a couple $100 at it. I was like, man, I'm just gonna. If Bitcoin got here, then I can buy some of these alts, because there was alts at the time. People were just copying, right? Just building out there. I bought Feather Coin, which there's no Feather Coin. Well, actually, they have a website up, but like it's not really anything. but yeah. So I remember those days. It was definitely like I feel like it was hard to keep your focus, for me at least, during that time, because it's like, okay, Bitcoin was good, but then these other coins, I got to wait for years now to see if these turn into something. And most of them didn't.
Yep.
But,
yeah, I mean, could not agree more. I mean, like, I'm just trying to think of some of the one like Elixir for some reason, like I don't even know why I put a lot of my money into that because I saw someone I trusted, and like I don't think it ever turned into anything. Like it's supposed to be like a decentralized app and selling. I don't know, man. I can't even name like. I mean, I could probably name a bunch more that just like what was I even thinking? Right? Like, where was the thesis? Like there was none. I don't know. It was definitely an interesting time, and obviously there's still a lot of that today. But like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, the experience.
I haven't talked about this, I think, in a long time, so a lot of it's coming back to me right now.
Yeah, but the experience is like we pay for our tuition, we learn, and then you go through all that stuff, and now you're like, you're an expert, and people look at you that way, So that's you just go through all that experience. So that's awesome. Okay, so you went through that period, and then like, when did you heavily get into NFTs? When was that?
That was sort of back in 2021, 2022. I think my initial foray, or like I think when I first saw it was absolutely the sale of Beeple's NFT for $69 million. And like I remember seeing that, and I think like so many other people, I'm not alone. I think in that, like seeing that, I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Like, what the hell is this stuff? And I think from there, like, just tried to have as much fun as possible. I think lost a lot of money on many of those as well, but yeah, I don't know. That was my initial foray, and during that time, I was working for a decentralized exchange called I think Energy Swap or something like that, and they were sort of against NFTs. So it was interesting, and like even the job I would get after that was against NFTs as well. I would work for a venture firm in 2022, and they were mostly focused on DeFi, and like the majority of their portfolio was DeFi. And like I was always trying to push them to get into NFTs or like anything art related, and they were just like, I don't think so. And I think they only ever did one deal on the NFT. It wasn't even really NFT, it was NFT-Fi, right? So borrow and lending for NFTs. So, but yeah, 2021, I think 2022 was my initial foray into, I guess, of knowledge of NFTs.
Why do you think they were so against that? Do you think it was because like they didn't want to give up market share from the token side?
Yeah, I mean, probably. I think it has something to do more so with when I joined the fund, right, or the company, they were 2 years into, I think, their fund, or like 2 years into, or maybe a little bit longer. I think in 2019 was when they started it. But like, of course, the money that they had raised back in 2019 and maybe a little bit more after that, right, from institutional investors, was DeFi focused, right? So they had their mandate of like, hey, this is where we're focused, and it was mostly on the DeFi side, and unfortunately, just the NFT side just didn't cross over enough, I think, to be able for them to say like, hey, this is a part of our thesis, or this is a part of our mandate. That's my guess. But yeah,
makes sense.
When you were buying the NFTs, then were you looking at it from an art standpoint, or were you just looking at the 10,000 PFP like everyone else was?
I think definitely the 10K PFP. I think it's only been, I think, like Shizzy, I think like you were saying in the intro, like Ordinals has been the main thing that has turned me on to art. Not that I didn't appreciate art before, or didn't see it before. It was just like, I was always focused on maybe where more so it felt like, the liquidity was, and that's definitely been, I feel like, over the past couple of years on the PFP side. But I think that Ordinals has really turned me on, to the art side of things, and it's been I'm sure, like you said, like a really interesting transformation and like exploration, and it's still ongoing, and there's so much unknown. But yeah, I mean, to your question, it was definitely on the PFP side.
Awesome. So let's jump forward a little bit.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, across like a number of different ecosystems, right? Like ETH and Sol and Near, and like
Near.
many of the different
Wow.
near. I mean, I got way too many NFTs there that are just totally
That's
zero.
interesting. That community isn't that big, is it?
No. I
But
mean,
I
it
was
never
always
was.
interested
Right?
in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the, I think, interesting piece, right? Is you had just towards what I think the middle of, well, I think it was like early 2022. That was when, of course, like things started to slide everywhere, right? It was no longer up only. We started to go into now that we know, of course, like more bearish, downside.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like what the Luna crash eventually happened, and most L1, I think, ecosystems other than like Ether Soul for NFTs, didn't really survive. And then Near was definitely one of those. So like, I think one I had like, I think 200 of, or like Near knots. I don't even know if those are worth anything now.
Yeah. I mean, I just remember hearing a lot of people saying that there was so much potential with that that chain. But and I messed around a little bit with it, but never on the NFT side. But that's cool. So then you mess with all that stuff, and then you kind of settled down, and then how did Ordinals happen for you?
Yeah. I think this really brings us to Ordinals. The new year, of course, of 2023 happened, and I think like probably many others, people were sort of like looking, is there something next, or like what is there something new? Like, what is the next narrative, if any? And I was just sort of like lost, I think, like many other people. But I think what happened was I saw on my timeline was Magic Eden launched, right, on Bitcoin, and that was I believe the date, sort of my first day in Ordinals was really March 20th, right? I think that was my first real day. I think that was when Magic Eden officially launched. Basically, as soon as I saw Magic Eden coupled with who they recommended at that time was Xverse, I was like, there's something interesting here, right? Like there's definitely something interesting, and I think actually. I had previously faded Ordinals, and the reason for that was back in January of the new year, or I think maybe early February, someone had sent me in like one of the group chats I had. They just sent like Bitcoin NFTs, and they did a mic drop emoji, right? And I was like, "Oh, this is interesting. Can you send me a link or something?" And they actually sent me to the website generative.xyz. Right. And if you know that website, and like back then, I don't even know if it's still around. I think they've shifted to new Bitcoin City. Right. But that website was like Bitcoin NFTs, but you connected your MetaMask wallet. And so I was like, is this really Bitcoin NFTs? Or is this just a scam? I don't know. And so like basically from there, I was like, all right, I'm not going to touch it. It just seems like a grift, I guess. And so I faded it from there. And then of course, like 2 months later, I saw Magic Eden launch, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's clearly wallets now. There's an actual, like, I know Magic Eden from Solana. This is something interesting to look into. And then from there, just basically immerse myself. I was like, there's, I think something here, and started to really build a thesis from there.
So, were you already like still playing in NFTs around this time, or were you just kind of like everyone else, where it was just kind of like just waiting for something to happen?
I think it was like everyone else. Like I think that there wasn't much to really mint. It was slow. Like, yeah, I would definitely have to say, like everyone else, like it probably hadn't been months, or it had been months, if not, like 6+ months since I last really minted something. Right. Gotcha. on many different ecosystems, because it was just like it didn't make any sense, right? I mean, just people were still trying to do like payments and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think it had been months, but was still just very active in the general NFT communities.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So what about your your following at that before Ordinals? Was that where you always kind of had a huge following, or because what I was hearing was that like once you kind of stepped into that spotlight with Ordinals, your following just exploded. Can you talk about that experience?
Yeah, so I mean, something I actually talked a little bit in depth about in the podcast right previous to this today was just sort of like, I guess, my style or like the way I do things, which is very much like I basically, it's like not something, it's not stuff I can read in a book, right? Or like see things, and like I need to basically fall on my face like multiple times in order to like learn things.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I bring this up is like, this isn't the first time that I sort of started a Twitter account or anything, right? Like this is this ultimately BitGod was like not my main account, right? Like I have a main account with myself doxed, and I was doxed like a couple months ago or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
as well as doxed everyone in person in Amsterdam and others. But yeah, I mean my main account, right, has like I think over 30,000 followers or something like that,
Okay.
and like BitGod was really just to collect, right, to have fun, to shitpost, and sort of immerse myself in this new ecosystem. And so I think the reason I brought up what I previously did is like it's obviously not my first time I think being in the Twitterverse. I've known how to traverse it, I guess, a little bit, and ultimately from there at that time, right, I mean I started this account from literally zero, right, on March 20th I think, or March 21st or so, and the goal wasn't really to build a following, it was really just to have fun. I think that like I think you go back to I mean, what is this? This is like early April, I think, right? When there was NFT NYC. I would go to NFT NYC and had less than 1,000 followers, right? And would be able to meet Donnie and Swag Toshi and Bob Bodley, right? A lot of these great people in the Ordinals ecosystem when like Ordinals was nothing and we were still just being laughed at. And then would sort of I think a month or so later, right, what is it, Bitcoin Amsterdam, right, that was, or I'm sorry, not Bitcoin Amsterdam, Bitcoin Miami, right, yeah, would of course go there, and the following had taken off, right, and was focused on the OXBT side of things. So yeah, I mean it's been an interesting ride.
Yeah, I remember those days because we kind of pivoted from what we were doing. We were just having fun in the beginning, just covering DeFi in general. And I got into BRC20s, actually brought me over to Ordinals, but then started exploring other things. And I said, Shizzy, let's check this out for a little bit. And once he got in, we both talked a little bit, and we just decided to go full head on in. And I remember Bitcoin Miami is when I remember people were talking about you a lot. And I think you made a lot of connections down there as well, if I'm correct on that. And then that's whenever all this, like, when was the big BRC20? Like it was like late April. That's when things started happening. And I think like probably everyone in this this podcast right now, like that's when we all started to like mint stuff, right? And like anything that was like or at least that I felt was like memeable, it was like, fuck it, let's mint it, right? And dick token and whatever the fuck, right? So, and I think from there, right, that's when I started to really build a thesis around like, okay, I think that this is a really interesting way to bootstrap a community, right, in sort of launching a BRC20 and then moving on to the art side, right? Like I've never had any plans to do anything on the gaming side, the the metaverse, the DeFi side. Like it was always going to be something on the art side. I think that things have obviously changed, and I think we've tried to make the best pivots. But yeah, that's I think when it was like late April to mid to late May, and maybe a little bit into June. Yeah, that was a fun time. Things were flowing, but like it was weird because like obviously the overall market hadn't had like its bull run, but then Ordinals had a mini little bull run there. But okay, so from there you had OXBT, you went through that, and then now you're at Quadrillion. So that transition over from kind of leading a token community to now what it seems to me is like you're connecting with artists more on, is it like on an individual level, kind of almost kind of recruiting these artists? How does that work?
Yeah, so I want to be also, I think, very clear as well, and maybe we'll get into this a little bit later, but ultimately like how OXBT is of course involved in Quadrillion. And so I think we can eventually get into that, but I want to also be very clear, like Quadrillion, at least for now, and I don't think we have sort of any intentions in the future to do this, but is really focused around the primary sale of art, right? So it's not, it's not on the secondary side, right? Like we're not trying to compete with Magic Eden, Gamma, etc. It's really around the primary sale, right? And sort of providing unique experiences for both, of course, you, the user and the minter, as well as the artists that are a part of that. And so what Quadrillion is, and is, of course, its first product, Perpetuals, is a curated collection of 21 artists making their really debut on Bitcoin, right? All of them are sort of established artists from the East Side with, I think collectively, around like $10 to $20 million in sales. And so the focus of this, this curated collection, right, is really on the experience as well as the art, not the artist, right? In that you actually won't know who you're minting in terms of edition that you're minting until post-mint, right? And so throughout this whole experience, right, what we're wanting you to do is really connect, right, with pieces. And so you're not only, of course, seeing the art, but you're also getting an audio file, right, attached to that, understanding and learning what is sort of the reasoning or the sort of passion behind creating that piece, right? And so that is ultimately what Quadrillion or really sort of Perpetuals Volume 1 is and is about. And I'm not sure if I missed anything there, but I think that's the basic sort of rundown.
Gotcha. So that was awesome. But I definitely want to take it back a little bit. So back when let's jump back to April just for a second. So what was the idea behind OXBT? Obviously your launch was incredibly successful. I was a mentor of that, which was awesome. What was the thought process back then? And back then, was redacted, which is now Quadrillion, or was that something completely different?
Yeah, so these are great questions, right? So I think the ultimate thesis, right, of OXBT and then what came next was OXBT, and then the what came next was some sort of PFP, right? And I think that we had started work on that, and when I say we, it was really sort of Lynn and myself, who is now the really founder of Redacted, which is still a thing. Okay. And I can also get into the relationship there in a second. And so that was the I think the initial sort of thesis and really goal. I think what happened with, of course, the launch of OXBT is it was much more serious and much larger than I think we could have ever expected. And I think that the collection that we were working on would have we would have been laughed out of the room. I think that it was much more focused on I like, of course, like memeable character,
meme culture.
Like that. Yeah, I really like that. And so that's what the collection, could have been. And so I think when that happened, it was like, all right, like this, we need to be realistic about like people's expectations about like what we should probably be building, etc. And so shifted into a couple different things. I think ultimately, what happened on that side was Redacted was sort of working on or is still working on the PFP side of things. And I think as time progressed, I thought that there was also an avenue to do ultimately what Quadrillion is doing, right? Which is not so focused on the PFP side, but is more so focused on these maybe curated collections or really curated experiences. And so that's what ultimately happened. There was, I think, sort of a split in direction, et cetera, how that related to OXBT, et cetera. And so that's what happened there. Now, on the Redacted side, Redacted is still going to be doing sort of something with OXBT, which is airdropping a one-of-one PFP to OXBT holders, probably coming up soon. Ultimately, Lynn sort of decides when that is going to happen, but that is happening, and we've announced that already, and that should be coming soon. And so that's the sort of relationship there. And then I think to the the Quadrillion side, the full mint details should be out sort of soon on the relationship, but OXBT holders are mainly sort of OXBT holders will be getting priority access to this, right, to Quadrillion. And I'm not sure if that, I think that answered the question pretty fully.
Yeah, definitely.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, it was perfect. So my because So to me, back OXBT was backed by art. When I was
Yep.
when I was buying it on the open market, I assumed that it was backed by art and
Yep.
stuff like that, and we're going to get the airdrops and stuff. And I was assuming you didn't say anything like this back then. I was just like, oh wow, this is going to come with BitGod, huge personality in the space, and it's going to come with this. And nothing really ever came, right? So it was just like down only, which was exhausting. And then you got to a point where, and I remember this because I was actually on vacation and I was getting notifications. BitGod decentralized the token, and so that was obviously you understand that was kind of but do you think that was a mistake?
I think I know it's sort of a hard conversation to have. I think this. I think that we made. I think there was a lot of decisions that were made in the effort to, I think, make sure all the sort of T's and I's were dotted on the legal side. I think a lot of decisions were made to make sure that the best interests were in the holders, all that sort of stuff. I think here's the thing though. I think that it's been incredibly difficult to do much of anything with, I think, really a BRC20. It's pretty difficult to use as a payment mechanism. It's very difficult to use as a governance mechanism, which I remember actually, Shizzy, we talked about, or I think with Yagobi, you sort of pressed me, I think, a little bit on that on a space one time, and I appreciate you for that. But I think that there's a lot of things that we have had thoughts of, explored, talked with the holders, right? Many of the larger ones. And then I think ultimately tried to make the best decision in those sort of holders, or in the holders' sort of best interest. So that's what I would say. I don't think it was a mistake. The team has never made a single cent from this. From OXBT specifically. I've yet to sell literally a BRC20. I think like we've tried to really do our best and continue to do our best, and so. I think that the kind of person I am is like, I want to go. And if we, if all of the decisions were just in my sort of hands, there would have been a ton of stuff out, months and months ago. But that's sort of what I'll say to that, right? Is a lot of times it's just not all in my hands. And like, you have to think about what's best for the holders, for the rest of the team and ultimately the company, and try and align those interests. But I think it's a great question.
Awesome. That was a perfect answer. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I think like we've tried, right? I think like that's the best thing. Like, and we're committed to continuing to try. And maybe this new avenue is like not the right one, but I think again, like we're committed to trying to figure out what makes the most sense for everyone. I'm not going to quit. So, even if it's sort of short-term hurt, I'm hoping that it makes sense long-term.
Yeah. And like this entire space is trial and error, right? So you can't get mad at someone for trying. And this is we're so early that these are the bumps and bruises that we have to take. Even for me, you know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have went so hard into that. So it's my fault, you know what I mean? But that's just something that, as a community and as a person, like we have to kind of like understand that, this is crypto, but we're on the very, very out, we're out there, you know what I mean? We're not near. Exactly. We're on Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's the safest and we're the furthest. So
totally
right now.
Yeah, but all of these are L1 assets, and for me, I just see that as being, when the time comes, we're going to benefit first. But and also OXBT still has 16.5 thousand holders, and it's always in the top 10 in terms of volume. I mean, I think there's definitely potential for a good future. We'll see what happens with the Unisat swap. That people in China seem to be about OXBT as well. There's like a certain amount of tokens they're crazy about. So who knows where it goes. Plus you have the extra utility with Quadrillion that BitGod just talked about. So
yeah, I just want to tell everyone that I'm still a holder of OXBT, just so everyone knows. So
yeah, so I think also to this specific point, and maybe we want to get into this. So we we sort of announced actually more recently that post the mint of perpetuals, we'll actually be moving away from OXBT. In that post the mint, what we would like to do is sort of do a swap or sort of reclaim for OXBT in sort of giving only OXBT holders in exchange for that OXBT, an access pass to the sort of Quadrillion ecosystem. And the main reasoning behind that really is the runes debate. In the OXBT server specifically, when that stuff was like originally launched, there was a ton of chaos, confusion, etc. And honestly, I expect that to continue. I don't know if BRC20, if runes, if it's even like SAT ranges are the fungible token standard on Bitcoin. I have no clue, but I think that like what should happen is the easiest amount of clarity for holders, and what we believe that is converting into some sort of Ordinals access pass, which we believe Ordinals to be stable, and BRC20 and runes and whatever standard to duke it out, right? And like at one point, I'm sure one of those standards will win, and if that is the case, then maybe reevaluate doing something with something more fungible related in the future. And so that's something that we did announce, I think, like 2 or 3 weeks ago. But again, like the main reasoning behind that is runes has seriously caused, I think, some serious confusion, as well as like, unfortunately, they're just like over the past 6 months, right, since the mint, I think we and probably many of the holders expected infrastructure and different pieces of the ecosystem to probably be built out much farther than it has. And then unfortunately it just hasn't. And maybe it picks up, right? Maybe like runes is different and it happens overnight. I'm not sure. But I think being able to give holders clarity of like, hey, like this is something that should be here for a long time, that gives you access to this thing that we're going to continually sort of build around, is I think something that people want and have not had so far, at least for our community.
Yeah, I hear you. I definitely agree. And to me too, like OSBT is like a legacy token now. Like BRC20s, they become legacy. They're first, and in our space, first is first, right? So being the first set of the first token standard, you would say, means a lot. And I think OXBT will always have value in that way of being a legacy token. So even if it doesn't get fully swapped over, the tokens that might not get swapped over are still the legacy and what we all remember from April and stuff like that. So even like to me, that means a lot.
Yeah, and I think like it could be at some point that BRC20 does win. I mean, maybe I'm wrong in my thesis of like only one wins. Maybe some people think that the multiple fungible token standards can win, but I think from what I've seen, in other ecosystems, like the majority of value or a lot of the value accrues to one non-fungible and one fungible standard. And I don't think anyone really knows which one that'll be, and I think runes are still like a couple months away, and maybe it's not even either of those, right? Like maybe it's something that hasn't even been invented yet. But I think at least in the short term, like let's continue to build something that is, or continue to build on top of something that is stable, provide serious value to that.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I mean, I think that from Shizzy and I, we talk to other builders in the space all the time. Sometimes we jump on private calls, and so I do think the Unisat swap is going to surprise some people just from the information we've gotten. But we'll see what happens, because it does still takes the token to a kind of a mini layer 2, but in testnet, it's been pretty smooth from when we tested it out. They gave us access to it, but we'll see. I think until it's proven to the market, like it's still like it's not there, right? But yeah, pretty cool.
100%.
Speaking of like all these new or all these protocols that we just talked about, like with the token standards and stuff, there's a lot of narratives in Ordinals, and I personally, maybe it's because we're biased or because we cover this stuff every day, but like I feel like these narratives are pretty damn strong. You have like the obviously like the early inscription narrative, then you have the rare sat narrative, which I'm been getting into a lot because my family has been in collectibles, like the tangible collectibles industry, for a while. And then you have you obviously have like the tokens and stuff like that. Do you bitmap as well is kind of on the outside, but how do you feel about the narratives in Ordinals? Do you feel like they're strong like how I'm kind of explaining them, or do you feel like, oh, it's just kind of going through like this narrative creating thing? It's just like how Ethereum was and all that stuff. What do you think?
I think they're incredibly strong. Like, and I think that it's not like a subjective thing, right? It's like there's real money, right? And you know, like OXBT, right? Large amount of holders, Bitmap, a large amount of holders. Like that's not, you know, that to me doesn't seem like a narrative that's like almost still being figured out, even though it is. It's like, okay, there's serious interest from a large amount of people. And it's never been done on this chain before. Sure, I think there's maybe exploration in like, all right, like what is this actually going to be, or like how is this actually going to be useful, or if at all. But I do believe like the majority, if not all, of the narratives in ordinals and like Bitcoin are very strong. I'm really curious to see how, you know, taproot assets do. I mean, that's another fungible token standard there. You know, RGB. I just got to meet one of the founders of like Bitmask, right, which is building on RGB. Like, there's so much. I think that there's just so much interesting stuff going on Bitcoin. Like, my thesis continues to get stronger of like this next cycle is like maybe just a Bitcoin and ETH thesis. Like, it's like those two are where majority, if not all, of the value accrues. And like, you just see on the Bitcoin side, like everything we've already seen on the ETH side is sort of played out here, right? Like, I'm not saying it's played out, it hasn't played out yet, but it does get played out over the next like 1 to 2 years, right? So like DeFi, you know, layer twos, like, you know, BitVM, another thing I didn't mention. Like, I think like this is the first time, of course, I think Ordinals just opened up, you know, and sort of took the cat out of the box, right?
Yeah.
It opened people's minds to what's possible on Bitcoin, or what could be possible. And like, that's everything. Like, it's literally anything and everything, right? And I think that you're seeing that in all of these different narratives. And so, like, you know, rare sats as well. I got sat pilled in Amsterdam. And I don't know. I tend to agree with you, man. I think that all of these narratives are very, very strong. I don't know which ones will win. You know, I'm not sure, but I do think that they're very strong. You know, and real money has gone behind them.
Well, I'm gonna make you pick. You have to put all your money into one. Which one you're picking?
Oh man, that's
just to make more money. It's just not about your field, just to make the most money.
Yeah,
you're putting all of it.
Then it's probably in the art side. Like, I think that's probably where I'm focused, right? And I think like seeing the feedback we've gotten from artists in all of the BD that we did, right, before sort of finalizing our curated list for perpetuals, like the feedback was pretty amazing and honestly very surprising. You know, we had more artists, I think, wanting to be on the curated list than we could accommodate, of course. And like, that was, you know, definitely not my expectations. I thought there'd be a lot more pushback. Like, you know, what the hell is Ordinals? Like, why Ordinal? I thought that was dead. But every one of them were like very open to coming over and figuring it out. And yeah, so I would definitely put my money on the art. Probably because I'm going to be trying to be, you know, one of the driving forces behind that.
Well, I mean, like the way you explained it, I'm excited for it because it definitely sounds like an experience with the audio clip, you know, breaking down, educating you on the art. You don't get to know who the artist is until post mint. These are experiences. People want experiences. You know, like me and Shizzy, you're talking about doing something that's going to be a great experience, but like, and it has to do with art and stuff like that too. But do you ever? So I see like these kind of curated collections, like you guys, you know, Quadrillion. Then you have counterfeit culture. You have Prince isn't really like that. It's more of like an art gallery, you know. But they still have signups and stuff. Do you see like a future of like all these artists like being free agents and being able to go wherever they want, or do you see a future to where like they're eventually going to be like exclusive to your platform?
Oh no, I mean I would hope they're not exclusive, right? I think that like they should definitely have a choice, you know, to go wherever they want. I think that the problem is mainly on the Bitcoin side, but there's just really not that many choices right now, right? And like if you go to the East side, there's there's probably 40 different art platforms that you can do or be a part of, like a curated collection, or do a unique experience, right? Or just sell on super rare. Like there's a lot of different platforms for you to get your art and get your name out there. It's just not the case, I think, unfortunately, on Bitcoin right now. I expect that to change over time, right? You got like Osura coming from On-Chain Monkey, right? But no, I mean, I definitely hope that it's not an exclusive thing, because I think that, you know, one of the things I've really realized with these artists is, you know, they're all, most of them, if not all of them, of course, have struggled through this bear, like all of us, right? And you know, I think what they need is you know, creative expression, and like if they're just, you know, if they're just under us, then it probably means like, you know, we're asking them to do stuff because we want them to do it, not because they want to do it, etc. So I think allowing them to be discovered, to do, you know, different platforms, experiment with different companies is I think really critical to, you know, not only their careers, but, you know, the ecosystem at large.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So my last question for you is Inscribing Amsterdam. You were there, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So what alpha can you give us in our community and whoever's watching?
I would say I would say like the alpha I learned is and it's not just, I guess, inscribing, right, but all of the conference, right? OMBs, man. I don't know. I guess like that's kind of the alpha, is like, you know, I've now got to meet ZK multiple times in person, and you know, got to be around him a bunch at Inscribing Amsterdam. They threw a great party with Magic Eden as well, and like that's what I would say. I'd say like it's one of the by far, right, the strongest communities on Ordinals, and I think that they've continued to show that. So that's what I would say is OMB. And I think maybe a you know, sort of ancillary point as well is like, I do think that like Bitcoin maxis are coming around to Ordinals. I think something I've been seeing, or I saw not only at Bitcoin Amsterdam, but also like I've been seeing in spaces since getting back, is, you know, Project Spartacus in particular, right, from Bitcoin Magazine, right, which I think is trying to inscribe WikiLeaks files, right, directly on Bitcoin. Bitcoin maxis really like that, right? Like they like that sort of initiative, and so I think that like you just get 2, 3, 4, you know, more things like that, where they're like, okay, I can sort of see the applications of this now, and like they start to seriously reconsider their preconceived notions of ordinals, and they start to go like, huh, maybe I should buy my first ordinal, right? Or like maybe I should join my first ordinal space. And I think that it's just it takes time, it takes money, right? But I do think that like they'll eventually come around with more initiatives like that from Bitcoin Magazine and hopefully others. I think that's it's definitely starting to sort of shift.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's obvious Bitcoin Magazine's on board because they love the Miami conference and all the ordinals and wizards and stuff. But and I do see some that have converted over, but there's always that one jackass that like will ruin our spaces. That right, Shizzy? Like they'll jump in and like ask for a speaker. We won't notice. We'll just give them the speaker, and then they'll be like, "Oh, this is a scam." so I'll have to kick them off. I'll be like, no, but I do agree with you. You know, I think there's more and more that are starting to come along, and I'm starting to see a little bit less jackasses. I feel like, hopefully,
But, yeah. I mean, I've been on a bunch of I think since I got back, just like more Bitcoin maxi spaces, and just like throwing it out, like, hey, like, can I send you your first ordinal? And like many of them are like, you know, fuck no, you know, definitely don't send it. But, you know, others are like, you know, I get a couple DMs after that and like, hey, can I get my first ordinal? And like, I think that like that's it's kind of funny, but it's also like I feel like that's just like small steps, you know, towards the longer term, you know, I guess like push of ordinals in general. Like I think once you start looking at it as a net positive and not a net negative, you know, if you're like a Bitcoin maxi, I think, you know, you start to like seriously consider you know, buying or figuring out like how to get involved in the Ordinals ecosystem.
Yeah. I just feel like they have this like army, like National Guard that's like guarding, like, no, seriously, that's guarding like Bitcoin Core, right? Like they're just like, okay, no, we can't let them get too close, you know, and because like the politics behind it. But Yeah, I agree with you. I think the future's bright, hopefully.
Yeah,
man. I want to showcase Quadrillion, if you don't mind. So I want to kind of explain what I'm looking at here. So this is the website, quadrillion.art/gallery, and it's some really, really cool stuff on here. I was looking at this today. What am I looking at here?
Yeah, so this is so basically like the point of everything, right? As a part of this whole like reveal and everything you're seeing is it's all sort of connected, right? And so there's a lot of mystery here, right? There's a lot of little context clues, etc. And so like those first two pieces you see there will be connected at some point as we sort of get closer to the mint. And then of course like the rest of the images or the rest of the JPEGs you see here, right, are the revealed pieces so far. And we are, I think I didn't actually mention this during the pod, but we are releasing 3 out of the 21 names as a part of the whole collection over sort of like a week to week basis. And we'll be having our second reveal of a name this week on Thursday. You can see the first reveal, which is all the way on the right, which is Terrell Jones. Sort of incredible artist and probably a couple of my favorite pieces so far as a part of the collection.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I saw some people guessing on one of your posts when you showed it, the next one that's coming up.
Yes,
but that,
I mean that's a part of the whole thing, right? Is of course you don't know who the artist is, but like all of these artists, right, are pretty well known on the East Side, and they have their own. They have their own style, and so if you're sort of in the art scene, you can start to make some educated guesses, and that's a part of the whole thing, right? Is like we want people to try and figure that out, and like maybe get into little groups, right, and like try and see what the next piece is and stuff like that, and the OSBT server has loved it as well. So it's been great to see a lot of the support and a lot of the support from Ordinals enjoyers as well. I think this one click away piece has been, I think, a favorite of many people, just because of the detail and everything.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that's really awesome. Is that 7-Eleven? That is a 7-Eleven.
Yeah. Yeah. He's that artist is really interesting, and really happy with his piece as well.
I love it. It's really cool. Is that a Pepe?
I think it's like, yes, it is a bunch of Pepes. There's some Pepes, I think, dancing on the roof. You got also like in the top, or I guess the middle right to the top left, you got like the Stairway to the Moon or Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah, right to the moon. That's awesome. I didn't even see that. That's really cool.
This is pretty dope. This is pretty dope. I don't know. I'm getting like a different feel of the art, the type of art on the site than even the prints. It just seems a little bit more like, I don't know, like almost kind of like traditional art, I guess.
Yeah, I think in some ways, right? I think like I think in general, right, for a while now, I really do believe this the established artists on ETH could probably make a crossover, right, into traditional art at some point if they continue to push, right, or continue to create. And so definitely I think it shows in their work as well. Like I think that they do some amazing work.
It's really cool stuff.
The more recent one we did, or released today, got sort of censored on Twitter. But that artist is it's pretty cool.
I'm afraid to show that on YouTube.
I know. Gotta be careful.
But yeah. All right, man. This has been absolutely amazing. But God, I really appreciate you. This is a part of the show where we kind of give our guests the stage to talk to our community, and that time has come. The stage is yours.
Yeah, I want to say, of course, thank you to you guys, of course, for having me on this amazing podcast. I'd say, not too much about myself. I think it's really about probably just taking a look at Quadrillion, just connect with maybe some of the pieces, both look at the finer details in the piece, but also, listen to the audio. I think that all of these artists really put, of course, a lot of time into the individual piece, but also into thinking about how to describe it with the audio. And so the hope is you listen to majority, if not all of them, and at least connect with one or two. And come mint day, are sort of excited for this whole experience. Lastly, I'll just say as well, I think we'll be, announcing, I think, really full mint details soon. Mint should be in early November, and we should also be doing an IRL event to sort of close out this whole experience in LA. And we have a really amazing venue booked at a well-known NFT gallery. And I think that's sort of it. I would just say follow along really with the Twitter that goes live with a new reveal over the next couple of weeks, every day at 2:10 p.m. PST. Let us know, I think, in the comments or in the OSBT server, maybe if you have any thoughts or you can think of who the artist is or can find out who the artist is.
It's like a little game. That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate you, BitGod. We know you're super busy. You took some time out of your day to spend with us and our community. And so we really appreciate that. And we look forward to, doing this again sometime in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. I really look forward to it as well. Hopefully soon. And appreciate you guys having me on today.
Sounds good, brother.
Thanks, man.
Take it easy.
Peace. Well, that was absolutely amazing. BitGod, man, everything as promised. Really, really amazing person.
Yeah, and it's very easy to talk to. We've had him in spaces a couple of times as a guest speaker, and really good back and forth flow. And I think people, got to learn about him a little bit more today on the show. So
yeah,
really appreciate that. And I really like the art, on QuadrillionArt. I actually didn't pull down until today. I listened to a couple of the audio clips too, and I think that's smart. Like, you can connect with the artist on a deeper level there, right?
For sure. And I think we're going from I'm in it for the tech to I'm in it for the art, right? That's what
weird,
I got from him with that. I thought that was really cool. I'm in it for the art. Like I'm not. Yeah. I used to be I'm in it for the tech, and that's kind of what we are over here, and that's really makes us different and special. And you add that to some rare stats, and you got a combination that can't be beat.
Yeah, I do feel like inscribing directly on the chain is going to be something that people, it's like for us, like we've already had our light bulb moment, right? Where that it makes more sense. But there's a lot of people out there that it hasn't really hit yet. And I think that will happen, whether it takes rare stats to connect to like an art piece or whatever, then they'll realize that, okay, this digital asset is a part of Bitcoin. It's backed by Bitcoin. I had to use Bitcoin. And that's another thing I brought up. Like everything that we like marketplace wise that we're involved with is priced in Bitcoin. That's such a big deal to me because, like once Bitcoin shoots up, like we're just so used to pricing in Bitcoin that automatically all these L1 assets will benefit from that.
100%. Yep. Everything here is Bitcoin. You check a price of something, you check into the price of it in Bitcoin. And this is
and nothing against Stacks or any other L2s or anything, but like when you're on their marketplaces, it's not priced in actual Bitcoin, right? So that's the big difference. And I'm excited to see what Quadrillion brings, and also the art scene. That's definitely growing. I'm noticing like it's growing, like in terms of legit artists, digital artists, and so excited for the future of Ordinals. And I'm glad we came in when we did. And I think Shizzy froze again.
100%. You got me back?
Yeah, I think you're back now.
All right, we appreciate you guys for watching, listening. If you cannot watch, you can definitely listen. We're on Afro, we're on Spotify. We appreciate every single view, every single watch. Appreciate you guys.
Peace.